think I won English Schools with only about 5 months of training.
That's mad.
But I hadn't realised how big English Schools was. So I remember winning it and then being told I was running for England. I was quite shocked.
Hello, Harry here. If you would like to help these conversations continue, you can support Jog On in 2 ways. Number 1, head to thisisjogon.com to check out the Jog On running kit. And number 2, directly share an episode with a friend so that they might discover what we create. Thank you. I'm Harry Morgan, and this is Jog On. The guy you're about to hear from is 18 years old. He and I met during some recent training sessions that I was attending, and we agreed to talk more. In this conversation, he spoke to me about his rapid success after arriving on the running scene, quickly winning the prestigious English schools.
And then you got told like people like Mo Farah had like won it previously.
But then also the pressure and the nerves that came with this newfound status, being told by a coach,
go win the nationals. I just remember vomiting on the start line. I was so nervous.
One of the most fascinating aspects about Woody Jerome is how he has stuck to running when so many of his peers fell away. Woody lamented to me about his memories of close friends who showed such promise but were lost to shallower pursuits.
Got onto the wrong crowd at school, so he ended up dropping out near top 10 at nationals. He was going to be fast.
I enjoyed very much understanding the mindset of a young man on the brink of heading to America to run, who possesses a determination and great love of the outdoors. So please, welcome to Jog On, Woody Jerome. Woody, I think the thing I want to take you back to is when you first started running. You told me that, first of all, you were at Taekwondo, then a bit of football, and then you go to running. So talk me through. You did Taekwondo from quite young?
Yep. So I started Taekwondo when I was 3.
Wow.
I then got my first black belt when I was about 10, and I stopped to do football.
Did your parents do Taekwondo? How did you get into it at 3?
My dad did karate for England.
Wow.
When he was younger. So I think he wanted me to go down the martial arts route.
That's amazing.
I wasn't that good at it, to be honest.
Do you still have the flexibility?
No. That's the reason I stopped. I was born with like ligament problems in my hips, so I'm not very flexible.
That's quite hard for Taekwondo.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
They want you to just kick someone in the head and just get your foot up. When I was at university, I did Taekwondo for 6 months. I tried to do a full year. I only managed 6 months. And same thing, no flexibility. Everything hurt. I was kicking sort of just a bit above the knee and just even going to the waist, let alone the head. Just like when they were holding the pad, they'd hold the pad up there. You go quite far in that, but then there's a bit of a change. Did you get fed up with it a little bit, or you just thought it's time for a change?
I was doing football alongside it, but all my friends were in a football team, so I joined. I wasn't that good at it. I did a bit of rock climbing as well. I've always liked the outdoors, and then I stopped football when I was about 13. Yeah.
And you were saying to me that one of the things you noticed when you were playing football, I've actually spoken to someone previously on this podcast who had a similar story, which is that when he was playing football, he noticed that he could just keep up quite well. He had quite a lot of energy on the pitch. Did you notice that? And you thought, oh.
Yeah, because I was never that good at football, but I'd always be running a lot further than everyone else. I'd obviously put a lot more effort in than other people, try and compensate for me not being very good at football.
So what makes you change? What makes you think I should try a running club? How does that first start?
So in year 8, I decided to enter the 1500 meters. I ended up winning that. So you go to district schools. I ended up winning the districts with no training. I think it was 5:07 was my time. So it wasn't that fast, but it was decent.
It shows for someone so young and also off no training. It's a very good time for that.
Yeah. So I think I'd actually tried to go to AFD before, but the waiting list was too long. So I was actually friends with a girl at my school who was in AFD, and she snuck me in. Yeah.
Do you find that you enjoy it quite quickly as well? Partly because you're having success, or did it take a while for you to fall in love with running a bit more? Was it hard to begin with?
I love running from the get-go. It's a community of runners compared to footballers is so different.
How's it different from your perspective?
They're a lot more supportive in running. Like on the start line, everyone's still talking. Like good friends. With football, it's the spectators. It's very different. Yeah,
I'm similar. Always resonated with certainly the act of running, but the community around it as well. It's very different on pitches where balls are involved, and it can be a very different world. And then what happens for you? Because for people that are listening to this that don't know, you had some success quite early on. You were one of the best examples of someone who sort of just arrived in running, and all of a sudden it's like you look down your power of 10 and you're getting like certainly top 3 and a lot of firsts as well.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It's quite odd. I think I won English Schools with only about 5 months of training.
That's mad.
But I hadn't realised how big English Schools was. So I remember winning it and then being told I was running for England. I was quite shocked. And then you got told like people like Mo Farah had like won it previously. It hadn't really sunk in till I say my next year of running.
When you look back, what do you credit your ability to run with? Did you feel like you pushed harder than other people around you? Did you feel like you just had a good build, like you had a sort of a light upper body and strong legs? Like, what is it?
I think rock climbing definitely helped me. I also think mentally, I was so I still am quite competitive, but I wanted to win every single race.
Yeah. So you had the right mentality as well. And then what was it like in terms of, did you feel, in terms of pacing, different people have different things. Some people are just sort of can keep up a pace for a long period of time. Some people have a really sharp kick on them. Where do you feel strong? If you're with someone with 100 meters to go, do you feel like you've got a good chance about kicking them, or do you need to go a bit sooner to secure the win?
When I was younger, I definitely relied on my speed from like football. So I'd always sit and kick. But now I can't sprint. So now I like to keep a steady pace.
So you've changed tactic ever so slightly. And then I guess one of the questions for you, Woody, is from the perspective of someone who starts running these, I'm getting English Schools so soon into running and having these huge successes. Do you find that there is any kind of level of pressure because people around, coaches start going, oh, blimey, like, they start talking about in a few years what you could do? Or are you generally quite good at dealing with pressure? You tend to stay quite chilled out about it?
I had a period of time, must have been year 11 of school, where I was really bad at dealing with pressure. So I remember speaking to Mick, telling me like I should go win the nationals. And I just remember vomiting on the start line. So nervous. But I think I must have vomited like 2 or 3 races in a row. It was from nerve of not performing well. Like my parents would drive all the way up to Leeds. I didn't want to disappoint them, so I just get nervous. But now I don't get too nervous.
Is that just maturing? You're 18 now. Is that just being a bit older?
I think so. I think because I know if I train well, then I'm going to race well. Whereas before I wasn't very consistent with training, so it's a bit like an exam. Like you'd feel nervous if you hadn't revised, but if you have revised, you don't feel nervous.
That's an interesting way of putting it, yeah. I think one of the big sort of myths of sport is that people think that people are very nervous who aren't very good at something, but I found it's much the reverse. So I've always been quite relaxed in running because I don't have like a world-class talent, so I kind of turn up and I can just enjoy it because I know that we're not talking about, especially in nationals, we're not even talking about the top 80, top 100, so it almost gives you this sense of like, I'll just enjoy it. Whereas like yourself, when you find you've got some ability, some talent, you've got some previous performances where people are going, whoa, that's Woody Jerome. Like he won English Schools. It does add something and makes you feel like you need to perform. So I can understand that. But it's interesting to know that now your mindset is stronger, better. You just have learned how to deal with that a little bit better.
Yeah.
So talk me through those next few years, because that was the next thing I was going to ask you about. After this kind of incredible just storm of Woody Jerome arrives, wins English Schools, comes first in a lot of big competitions. It seems to me, from looking at your Power of 10, like you have particular success at cross country. That seems to be where you are quite strong. What happens over the next few years? Do you get any injuries? Do you sort of mentally become a little bit like struggling with enjoying it? Like what happens?
Mentally, so the year after, I think I won Liverpool. And then the year after, I have a pretty awful cross-country season.
Awful in what way? Because you feel like you're underperforming?
I was year 11, not training. But I said to myself I wanted to medal at the next English Schools. So I got bronze in that one. And then first year of college, it was again the same thing. I wasn't training where I should be.
Is that because of just social life and it's like there's all these invites to go out? And
it's a bit of social life and also lockdown. I was a bit mentally drained. It was training by myself in the cold weather. Got to me a bit, so I just wasn't going out for runs.
Do you tend to train better when you are with a group?
Yeah, when I'm with a group, I love training with a group. It's a good environment. You can talk to people. It
sort of forms like almost it becomes your social life to an extent because you meet all these different people. Just yesterday evening, we were doing that grass session, and I was thinking to myself that I've once been to that field and ran around it by myself doing a session, and it's nowhere near close. People sometimes wonder how to get better at running, and one of the things you have to look at is, well, are you doing all your training by yourself? Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things, and the fact that you reference community so quickly is one of the reasons you like running. Obviously, you're someone that thrives off being around other people and enjoys just that interaction as well as a bit of racing and training.
Yeah, that's adding on that. I think with my first year of college, because all my friends, all the under-20s had left the club, so I was by myself basically in my group. So I was front running everything.
Yeah.
So I mentally found it so. I'll be honest, just found it boring. But yeah, we've got a good group now. all the Windsor lads have come down, got people to train with.
So I think you're in an interesting age bracket, Woody, where you've gone through that phase where the dropout rate's quite high. It seems to be particularly strong in females, but it's absolutely strong in boys as well. Have you known over the last 4 to 5 years, from like sort of 15 to 18, have you seen friends, colleagues, other runners your age dropping out because they just sort of have fallen out of love with it, or they've just gone off and done social life stuff? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I remember our under 15 team, we basically won every national event, regional event, got, I think, gold and everything by about 100 points, 50 points. And then I lost, my best friend at running got onto the wrong crowd at school, so he ended up dropping out. So it's a shame because he was placing like near top 10 at nationals.
Yeah,
he was going to be fast, and then loads of other boys from AFD all left, so our team kind of dropped down a bit. When
those people who drop out, do they ever like make a statement and say, "Oh, I'm just fed up with it, Woody, like I'm done with it," or is it more like they just stop turning up bit by bit and they kind of phase out? How does it work?
It's phase out.
Right. Yeah. And the love's not there anymore. Have you ever had a conversation with one of them and said, "Look, you're really good, you should keep doing this," kind of thing? Or does it just...
Yeah, like I said, my old best friend at the time, I tried to get him in, tried to tell him he was going to be really good, because he actually had a goal to run for England.
Wow. At
the time. Quit with a few months before English schools.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
But what's kept you going?
What's kept me going? I love running.
Yeah. I guess that has to be it at the core. And there are some people, the unfortunate truth is there are people out there, and I've met them, who have a really good natural ability, but for some reason they never quite click with it. They never fall in love with the process, and maybe they've just this entire time been riding off, almost like just following instructions off coaches, and never actually just thinking to themselves, is this something I really want to do? And they have a love for another sport or something else, and it can be a shame, but sometimes I guess it's just not right for people. And maybe someone like the friend that you referenced, they will come back when they're 23, 24.
Hopefully.
They'll actually make a return, and fortunately they are young enough that they could do that to an extent, but there's obviously a big argument that you take 6 years out. It's quite an important gap where you might not build a foundation that someone would like yourself, who is continuing to run throughout their life.
Yeah.
Which I think leads us on, Woody, to asking you about, I mentioned cross country, you had some success there. Do you have a favourite thing? Is there something where, if you're standing on a start line, I can put you on any start line for a road race, a track race, or a cross country race. Is there one you kind of go, that's my jam over anything?
Cross country, definitely.
Why is that? You like getting muddy? You just feel strong on the grass? What is it?
I struggled. I'm hopefully getting a lot better with track now, but I struggled a lot mentally staying focused in a race. I felt with cross country, I've got things to look at. I just found it more exciting.
And also, it's not quite so specific on, it's not specific on times.
No.
You are literally there in the race, and it's about the position and beating the people there on the day, and you can't really relate it because conditions change per cross country race.
I'm quite a tactical runner as well, so that works with me. I like to make the pace a bit slower than keep getting faster as the race goes on.
Yeah, sort of slowly pick it up bit by bit. Do you try to pick people off? Are you someone who sort of gets on the shoulder and then just tries to...
I just sit on the back.
Got you.
Or sometimes go to the front, control it.
Yeah, it's fun. People don't realise often until you get to that high level racing how much tactics are involved. They think everyone just runs, but actually there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And when you start to make a move, when you hold back, trying to work out who else is tired here, like what is this pace like? Is this a pace are they going to be able to sustain it? That kind of thing. It's quite interesting when you get into that mental aspect of actual in the middle of racing. It seems like you emerge from a family where there's not a huge history of running. You've got the dad who's got the karate background. Yeah. You said your mum's done a little bit, but generally, is it fair to say in general your family haven't been big runners?
Very fair to say. I mean, when I was about 10, I used to go for a run. Basically, my mum and I wanted to try and run a 5K together. So we went to Manor Park, and we used to just do like 2-minute intervals training just around the park.
Yeah.
And my mum was faster than me as well. She was like dropping me by quite a fair way. And then we did a 5K together. And then my mum, she just didn't do much running. She'd go for like a 5K a week, 35 minutes, 30 minutes. And then she ended up doing Brighton Marathon in 4 hours 28, which isn't bad considering how much training she did.
Absolutely.
And then she did a wine marathon a year after.
Amazing.
Like a glass of wine every 10K.
So maybe there is something deep down that because you did those sessions with your mum and you saw your mum running, maybe there's something innately that when you hit football, you still have maybe there's something in the back of your mind that you know that you did this running and you're already slightly fond of this.
I think my mum's honestly think she is a naturally quite a talented runner, but I just feel she didn't do anything from a young age. I feel like she would have been quite fast if she had have done something.
It's always interesting that when you see someone who just does something naturally, very little training, and but doesn't have a background in running, you think, well, what would have happened if you'd picked it up at 14, 15 and started running? So on a positive note, that you obviously enjoy cross country, like the tactics, the interest of the route. Talk me through track then and road. Do you find like you are mentally a bit stronger at cross country? And is there something about the laps or something about track, or is it just the burning of the lungs? Like it's just sheer pain? Is that why you kind of go a little bit at track?
I feel like cross country, I know I'm decent at, whereas track I've not really had a breakthrough yet, and I've not really done any road racing. I've run a few times for the club at relays, but I think off my form is appalling. I don't know if you've seen me run.
Well, you have an interesting style. You've got very low arms, and that tends to be the sign of someone who's smooth and is probably going to be good at distance in the long term, and having a lot of stamina, because you are, I would say you're pretty efficient in the way you move, but you're not like one of these incredibly bouncy, like high arm people who's like, flying around the corners. You are moving very fast, but you're very low, your arms are quite low. Yeah. Is that something you have ever focused on or worked on?
To be honest, I've not had the help to help me with it. I want to, when I go to the States, I want to work on my form.
If I could put you on the start line of any race on a track, what do you feel deep down you have got the best shot at winning a race of in terms of distance? Is it 1500? Is it 3K? Is it 5K? Like what is even though you're not fond of much track, if you had to pick a distance, what do you think you would do the best at?
5K.
Yeah?
Yeah, hands down.
Just the distance, it gives you more time for the tactics.
Like I said, my speed isn't great. I think I did 3K at Loughborough about 2 weeks ago. I think I did 8:30 flat, which is not bad considering it was really bad conditions. But every lap was just same pace. I honestly couldn't run any faster for the last lap.
Which isn't necessarily a bad sign. It shows what you are good at. But yeah, those people who then just like move into another gear, it's like it's a different thing.
But the leader's got 8 seconds on me on the last lap. I just couldn't go with it. Couldn't go with it, no.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, that's just like, and unfortunately you are at an age now where you can start to move into longer distances. When you're dealing with a 14, 15-year-old, it's very different. You're still growing, but at least now you are starting to really strengthen up and move into adulthood where you will start to build in strength. I think it probably leads us perfectly moving on into the future, into what's happening next, which is you've got a scholarship to go to Chicago to run there. How does that come about? Did you know for a long time that you wanted to go to America with your running?
So after winning English Schools, I remember seeing things about people going to the States, and it always interested me, but I kind of forgot about it for a bit. And I started getting like DMs on Instagram from American, UK scholarship, like those types of people. But I just kind of ignored them because I thought they were scams. And then this Right Track sent me a message, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. So I got into contact with them. I spoke with them a bit and realised that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the States. I signed with Right Track, and then I basically went on loads of interviews with different colleges. Some of them would offer you half scholarships, full scholarships. But in the end, Chicago was the one that I liked the most.
And what was it about Chicago that you liked?
The coaches seemed really good. It's a really cool city. It's quite academic as well, D1.
So sort of ticking both boxes, really. Yeah. You're not going there just for the running, you're not going there just for the education. It's a nice blend of both.
Yeah, it's a nice blend.
And it's 4 years total that you're there.
4 years, yeah.
I mean, are you excited about it, or is it just like you don't know what to expect? Like, how do you feel about this?
I'm very excited. I really am. So I'm so excited. Such a cool opportunity.
It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Bit worried about leaving all my family and friends.
It'll be weird.
Yeah.
But it'll be completely worth it. And like you say, and as long as it's huge, 4 years. But when you look back one day, when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll be like, oh, that was just like this window of time.
It's such a cool story to tell.
Absolutely.
As well, yeah.
Oh, you'll have some amazing experiences out there. And then it's so hard to look forward, Woody, because being only 18, there's so much that could happen, so many different paths that could happen. Do you have a kind of a very rough sense of where you might like to head one day? Do you look at half marathons, think, yeah, I think one day I'm going to be a big distance runner? Do you look at the trails? I know you're a big lover of the outdoors. Do you want to just go and do like these mountain races in Switzerland and places like that? Can you see yourself roughly doing in a few years from now?
My dream would probably be to go run on the trails, but Aldershot's not the hilliest of areas.
It's not.
No, probably going to marathons, half marathons.
And why the trail? Like, what is it that you love about the outdoors?
Just being outside. It's very odd. I love mountains. Being outside, do too. Yeah. I don't know, I just feel at peace when I'm outside. Everything's quiet.
It's a good description. It is. It's sort of there is a peacefulness. It's like you just feel kind of like everything's for me. It's I always feel like quite fresh when I'm out there, and like everything's like there's no staleness. I'm not like sleepy. I'm just kind of like I feel almost like I'm the most focused as well. It's strange, you know. We sit at desks and we work at screens and stuff, and that's when you're meant to be like focused. But actually, I find that if anything, I'm quite sharp when I'm in the outdoors, and it's just like blazing sun, and you can just see like I mean, we were recently out in France doing some altitude training, and just being able to see all the snow-capped mountains, and even we had a snow day, and I just like the way you breathe. I don't know, everything's just you're very alive in that moment, you know. So it sounds like for you will aim towards
anything outside in nature would be good.
Do you think you will still road run and still do other things on the side of it, or ultimately one day do you think you'll go full hippie and just be like this guy that lives in a cave? And
that's the plan is, well, not really a plan, but I want to see how fast I can get in the States. So obviously there's not much money in trail running. I think all the money's on track and road. So if I get really fast in the States, which hopefully will happen, I'll probably focus on road and track. But I feel like with running, you need to love it as well. And I definitely love trail running.
Would it be fair to say that you do love road running, just not as much, or do you feel like you are swaying towards just trail?
I've honestly I've not done enough road races to know.
That's interesting. I think as long as you stay balanced with it, and if you can see that perspective, you say, well, it's good for me to still stay in road because of these reasons, because I might get a bit of race money, because it's good for sponsorship if it happens one day, those kind of things. And then that way you can still balance it out with, you could have you could have an amazing training program where you do like a 50% trail, 50% road, and probably just get so much strength from running in the hills. And my God, if you did altitude camps and started running in Switzerland you would, there's no doubt you would become so strong in the leg and your lungs would just become insane that you probably would just find that in of itself just benefits you hugely on the road. The only thing that people gamble a little bit more with on trail sometimes is just injury risk and just being careful not to trip over a root one day and just that kind of thing, because there's a consistency on the road. Something I wanted to ask you, Woody, was over this time period that you've been running of this few years span, and a lot's happened from English schools through to the scholarship for Chicago. Is there a highlight that stands out? Is there something you think, this has been amazing, this is something that running's brought me, and this is my kind of golden moment?
I think my highlight was from the Westminster Mile when I was about 15. And I remember, because it's the big road, you got Buckingham Palace here, and then is it Pall Mall? And I remember, because they've obviously cleared all the sides for the race, and it was just my dad and I just walking down with no one on the road. It's very odd, because usually you have loads of cars and people down there.
Woody, it's been amazing to chat to you. I think it's really fascinating to hear how someone comes from this Taekwondo football background, finds a love and a superb ability for running. I hope that you find everything you want out in Chicago, and I hope that it is a wonderful experience. I think you should just grab every opportunity possible. I remember going to university when I was 17, 18, under not at all the same circumstances, but I knew I was joining the athletics club and going and running. And I just remember just thinking I need to be as open as possible and just saying yes to everything. And that's just what got me to have an incredible experience. So I wish you all the best with it. Woody, thanks for talking to me, and all the best with your running.
Thank you.
We produce podcast episodes and videos to connect people through a love of running and adventure. To find out more or to support us, you can purchase your own Jog On running top from the Jog On shop at thisisjogon.com. I'm Harry Morgan, never quit running, and this is Jog On.